The bottle went out of his hand before the rest of us had finished plating the second course, and the kitchen, which had been running on the kind of disciplined noise that good kitchens run on, went quiet the way a kitchen only ever goes quiet when somebody has just made a serious mistake. He was holding the bottle by the neck and pushing it across the pass toward the ceremonial guardsman who stood at perfect attention at the kitchen entrance to the banquet hall, and he was saying, in the voice he uses when the cameras of his television show are running, "Excuse me, you hold this." The guardsman did not move. The guardsman did not look down. The guardsman, who I had been working past for 2 hours, and had not so much as glanced at because the post simply was, the way the steel of the pass and the copper of the pan simply were, did not register that a wine bottle was being pushed at his chest by a man who was being paid £60,000 to oversee the cooking of the founding day banquet of the House of Hollybrook. My name is Alaric Penhale. I am the sous chef. I have been the sous chef of this brigade for 4 years. I have in those 4 years watched my head chef build on the back of a single rumored connection to the royal household catering rota, a television contract, 2 restaurants, a line of branded cookware in 3 department stores, and a reputation as a man who could make a state banquet sing the way other men make a small bistro sing. He could, when he wanted to, do the work. He almost never wanted to. The brigade did the work. He came in for the photograph and the network B-roll and the occasional roar over a sauce that had broken because somebody had not been watching it, because he had pulled them off the sauce to film a piece for the camera. We did the cooking. That is, I will say without bitterness, how it works in kitchens of a certain size, and you accept it because the alternative is to not work in those kitchens. I had accepted it. That night the cameras were not in the kitchen. The founding day banquet does not allow press in the working areas. He had sulked about it in the staff room before service. The film crew of his next season television contract was, somewhere on the upper floors, eating the canapé table off silver trays and getting nothing useful. And he had carried that sulk down to the pass, and it had been looking for somewhere to land, and the post had been standing there, immaculate, since before we had lit the second oven. The post was a ceremonial royal guard of the House of Hollybrook, red wool tunic, brass buttons polished to the color of the candlelight, tall black bearskin, white gloves, 3 medals on the left of his chest, one of them a small ribboned thing I did not recognize, a ceremonial rifle at the slope. He had taken his post at 6. He had not moved at any moment in the 2 hours that followed. He was there because the kitchen entrance to the banquet hall on the night of a state dinner is a sentry post. The ceremonial honor guard stands on the kitchen side of the doorway for the duration of the formal courses, and the brigade works behind him, and the door behind him opens to the antechamber where the senior staff of the household pass through with the courses and the wines. He was not a doorman. He was not a waiter. He was the ceremonial honor guard of the host household at the host state banquet. Every cook in the brigade who had ever worked a state dinner before knew exactly what he was. The chef knew, too. I know he knew because he had asked me, an hour before service began, whether the post would be lit by the pass lamp or whether we would need to bring in a sconce. He had asked because he had thought, for that hour at least, that the post would be in the camera shot. When the press was barred from the kitchen, the post became, in his head, decoration that had not paid him back. So he pushed the bottle across the pass at the guardsman's chest and he said, "Excuse me, you hold this." The guardsman did not move. "Are you deaf?" the chef said. He said it loud enough that the meat station 8 paces away looked up. The young commis on the fish station, who had been at the brigade for 3 weeks, set her tweezers down on her board with the careful motion of somebody who has just realized the room is no longer what she thought it was. I said, "Hold this, hold the bottle." He pushed it further. The neck of the bottle touched the brass button at the center of the guardsman's tunic. The guardsman did not flinch. The guardsman's eyes were forward on the wall above the doorway through which the staff carried the courses. The guardsman did not, in any way visible to any man in the kitchen at that moment, register that anything was happening to his tunic at all. "Make yourself useful," the chef said. "We're carrying." "Hold the bottle." He glanced over his shoulder at the doorway. There was a man standing in the doorway. I had seen him come in 20 minutes earlier with a small clip-on badge and the soft step of a person who has been in many kitchens, a junior food critic, I had been told by the maitre d', writing a feature on the banquet for one of the broadsheet supplements, allowed into the working area on the standing of his editor and the discretion of the household. He was, at that moment, not moving. He was looking at the pass. He had a small notebook in his hand. He was not writing in it. He was looking. The chef saw him looking, and the chef, who had been a man with a sulk in his throat for an hour, was suddenly a man with an audience. "This is your career, soldier," he said. He said it in the voice, the pitch was for the doorway. "I'm telling you to hold the bottle, move." The bottle came up another inch. The neck pressed against the brass button. The guardsman did not move. The guardsman's white-gloved hand was on the small of his rifle stock at the slope. The guardsman's other hand was on the strap. The guardsman's eyes were forward. "Get out of my way," the chef said. He stepped sideways, brushing past the post, and put the bottle down on the pass with a small, hard clatter. He turned back. He was breathing through his teeth in the way he breathed when a camera was on him, and he had decided the moment needed a teeth-bearing close. "You are at my kitchen pass, mate. You are in my kitchen. You hold the bottle when I say hold the bottle, or you take yourself out of the door and let a working man through. Do you understand me?" The guardsman did not move. I had, at that point, been watching the chef for a long time. I had been watching him push every member of the brigade he had ever inherited into doing the work of the kitchen for him. I had watched him grow used to the small daily currency of being obeyed. I had watched him turn that currency into a television contract and a brand of branded cookware and an exclusive catering license to the royal household, the contract that had, on the strength of a single rumored connection, been quietly renewed every year for 6 years. I had watched him stop, in those 6 years, treating the kitchen as anything but his green room. I had not, in any of those 6 years, watched him try to give an instruction to a man who was not in any way required to listen to it. The kitchen is a hierarchy of who is paid to do what. The guardsman was not paid to do what the chef was asking. The guardsman was paid not to. The chef did not understand that yet. He turned to the young commis on the fish station. "Are you seeing this?" he said. His voice was up. "Are you seeing this man refuse a direct request from the executive chef of this banquet?" The commis did not answer. The commis was 23 years old and 3 weeks into her first brigade, and she had gone in that moment the color of the white tile behind her. "He's standing there like he owns the doorway. He's drawing the wage of the household and he won't hold a bottle." He flicked his wrist back at the junior food critic in the doorway. The food critic was by now writing in his small notebook. The chef saw him writing. The chef thought, "I am certain of this because I watched his face do it, that the writing was on his side." "Note that for me, would you?" the chef said, and laughed the laugh he used on the network's Tuesday night show. "Make yourself useful." He turned back to the post. "Hold the bottle," he said. "Last time." The guardsman did not move. There was, behind the guardsman, a small motion in the antechamber. I saw it because I was looking past the pass. The chef did not see it because he was looking at the post. A woman in a dark gray coat dress and the small enameled badge of the household stepped quietly through the antechamber doorway and stopped 2 paces behind the guardsman. I knew her. I had been introduced to her briefly in the morning briefing of the kitchen before service. She was the equerry of the banquet. She was, on the night of a state dinner of the House of Hollybrook, the senior member of the household staff in the kitchen and antechamber corridor. The catering brigade reported to her through the chef on the night. She was a small woman in her late 50s. She wore reading glasses on a fine chain. She had a clipboard in one hand. She had been, I realized afterward, standing in the antechamber the whole of the last 7 minutes, from the moment the chef said, "Excuse me. You hold this," through every demand and every line that had followed. She had not stepped through the doorway because the post was hers and the post would hold, and there had been nothing in protocol for her to do until the chef had finished. The chef had finished. She stepped forward. She did not raise her voice. She did not look at the chef. She laid one hand very lightly on the steel of the kitchen pass at the corner closest to the guardsman, and she said in a small clear voice that carried no further than the meat station, "Chef." The chef turned. He saw her. He had not seen her before in the moment. His face, which had been working a camera face, went, in a beat, into the face of a man who had just understood a thing, and had not yet understood how much of a thing it was. "Madam Equerry," he said. He tried the smile. The smile did not land. "I was just the bottle." "Chef," she said, "the post is the ceremonial honor guard of the House of Hollybrook. The post is not staff of the catering brigade. The post does not hold the bottles of the catering brigade. I am sure you know this." She paused. The pause was not for him. The pause was so that the brigade and the young commis on the fish station and the junior food critic in the doorway could hear what she said next very clearly. "I am also sure that the household will be reviewing its contracts with your firm in the morning. Please continue with the service. The dinner upstairs is the priority of every person in this room." She did not wait for him to answer. She turned. She walked at the unhurried pace of a senior household servant back into the antechamber. She left the doorway empty behind her, the guardsman still motionless at his post, the bottle on the pass where the chef had put it down. The chef stood at the pass for perhaps 4 seconds. The brigade stood at the stations. The young Camille on the fish station was, I saw, breathing very carefully through her mouth. The junior food critic in the doorway had stopped writing. He closed the notebook. He put it into the inside pocket of his jacket. He looked once at the chef, and his face was the face of a man who has just been given by a kind providence the central paragraph of his piece. Then he stepped quietly back into the antechamber and out of the kitchen, and we did not see him again that night. "Service," I said. The brigade looked at me. "Service, mains in 7 minutes. Wellington at the pass. Bring the sauce up." The brigade moved. The chef did not move. I do not know what was in the chef's face. I did not look at him. I went to the pass and I put the bottle off the steel and into the wine station where it belonged, and I took the spoon out of the sauce and I started, in the small disciplined motion of a working sous chef, to taste the sauce up to where the sauce needed to be. The brigade carried the mains. The post stood at the pass. The dinner upstairs went up at the pace it was supposed to go up at, and the courses landed at the time they were supposed to land at, and the banquet, as far as the 140 guests in the formal hall ever knew, went flawlessly. The chef stayed at the pass for the rest of the service. He did not give another instruction. He did not need to. The brigade had been doing the work for 6 years. We did the work that night. He stood at the steel and he watched. When the dessert went up at 10:30, he untied his apron and he folded it on the corner of the pass, and he went out by the staff stair to the small office the household had given him for the evening, and he did not come back down. The post was relieved at 11 by the next sentry. The guardsman who had stood at the pass for 5 hours marched out of the doorway at the same parade pace at which he had marched in, his rifle at the slope, his face forward, his bearing identical to the bearing he had held when the bottle had been pushed at the brass button at the center of his tunic. He did not look at the brigade. He did not look at the chef's empty apron. The post had stood. The post had been asked to stand. The post had stood. By 8 the next morning, the household had, through its catering office, written to the chef's firm advising that the exclusive catering license to the royal household, the contract that had been the single load-bearing rumor of his career, was being placed under formal review, and pending that review would not be renewed. The letter was 3 lines long. The 3rd line said, with the small courtesy of the household, that the catering office wished the firm every success in its other engagements. By 10, the network that held his television contract had received, through the discreet channel by which networks receive these things, a copy of the junior food critic's piece, which would run in the broadsheet on the Sunday under the modest headline of a banquet feature, and which contained, in its 3rd paragraph, a surgical description of an executive chef pushing a wine bottle at the chest of a ceremonial guardsman, and being, in the calm phrasing of the broadsheet, reminded by the equerry of the household of the distinction between staff and post. By noon, the network had called the firm. By 2, the firm had called an emergency meeting of its investors. By the end of the week, the network had announced that the chef's next season contract was entering creative review. By the end of the month, the network had announced, in the careful language of these announcements, that creative review had concluded, and the contract would not be renewed. I did not at the time know the precise sequence of the cascade. I read the broadsheet on the Sunday like everyone else. I read the network's announcement 2 weeks later. I did the work the chef had been paid £60,000 to oversee, and I did it without him because the head chef did not come back into the kitchen after that night. He sent, through his agent, a letter advising the firm of his departure for personal reasons. The firm sent me, the following Tuesday, a quiet message asking whether I would be willing to step up to head the brigade through the end of the year. I am, at the time of this telling, the head chef of the brigade. I have not sought a television contract. I do not intend to. The post still stands the kitchen entrance to the banquet hall on the nights of state dinners. I see it on the nights I am at the pass. I have on those nights never spoken to the post, because the post is not there to be spoken to. The post is there to stand. On the night of the founding day banquet of the House of Hollybrook, the post stood. A man with a television contract and an exclusive catering license, and a brand of branded cookware in 3 department stores pushed a wine bottle at the center of the post's tunic, and the post did not move, and by the morning the television contract and the license and the brand were all under review of one kind or another, and within a month they were gone. The post had not in any of it said a word. The post had not looked at him. The post had not, so far as any man in the brigade had seen, even noticed him. That is, I think, the whole of what I have to say. The brigade did the cooking. The post stood the doorway. The chef did the rest of the work himself.